Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this live MoneyMaker webinar. So this webinar today on August 7th is a follow-up to the webinar that we posted last month, which featured online appointments, a new feature upgrade in addition to our website builder. So the purpose of this webinar is really to just kind of dive in and address any questions that you may have that come up during today's session, or anything that you may have thought of as you watched the webinar that was recorded and posted last month. So to answer these questions, we have here with us today, again, Eric Klein, who's the Director of Product Marketing, as well as Tanya Rojas, who's the Director of Product Management. And they will go through all the questions. So just reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A, and also, or you can also enter them into the chat box, and we will go through and make sure to call them out and answer them. Before we get into the online appointments Q&A session, we have Chelsea, who everyone knows is our Senior Product Manager, and she's going to go through some updates that we have this month for you on the reseller product and platform. So Chelsea, will start off with you, and then Chelsea will hand off to the Q&A, and then we'll hand it off to Eric and Tanya. So thanks again, everyone. And just as a reminder, next month our webinar will be recorded and posted. And with that, let's dive right in.
Sounds good. Thanks, Christina. So we have several items that have launched recently through the RCC, and an item that just launched yesterday. So I'm going to jump right in. First off, on our standard storefront, you can upload your logo. That's not any new news, but we did change where you can have small, medium, and large size logos. So I'm going to share my screen here, or if Christina, do you want to stop sharing? Perfect, thanks. And get this up here for you. All right, so this is just my test reseller account. I'm going over to storefront and branding. You're going to see a couple of changes here. First, there's that hero image, and this is what I was talking about with the different size logos. So this is my test storefront. So you see that my logo is definitely much larger than it was before. I have my hero image that has this overlay here so people can read the text. That all that is available now to you. So you can go ahead and change these. I do want to call out that changing the size on your of your logo, it is only on the storefront. So once your customers go into their product or into their account, it's going to drop back to the logo size that it was before. So this is just on the storefront itself that you can have a different logo size there so people can read it better. The other item that has been updated is around navigation. So in here, what was added is you can now rearrange your navigation sides of having domains listed third or websites first, whatever you want to do there. There is, of course, still the hide option, and then you can still rearrange as you'd like, and you can reset them as you'd like. Also, if you go into a category, you can rearrange what's showing up in here as well. So that has launched recently, and the last item that actually just became available yesterday is around our site security product, Securi, that now you have the option to price out the website security packages for multiple sites. So it's still that same website security, but it's for 5, 10, 25, and 50 sites, I believe. That's going to be launched for people to buy probably in the next week or two. We'll be doing an announcement when we get there, but you can go ahead and price things out starting now. So that is all the updates I have around the platform for now. So I will turn it back over to Christina, and we'll answer questions around our OLA.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Chelsea. So I
Just go ahead and enter your questions into the chat, and we will answer them.
Quiet group so far.
Yeah.
So what kind of, should we go over some questions that maybe you've had from the floor before? Or like the floor, I mean like the care agents? Is there any common ones that they are normally asking, going about, trying to dig into on how all that works?
Yeah, we can do that, and if it's helpful, we can provide a minute or two of just some additional context that was probably covered in the first webinar, just to level set with everybody. So, yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is Eric. Give me 1 second. Let me grab the screen share if you don't mind. I can pull up a couple slides. Yeah. And I think probably the biggest questions that we get along those lines are really typically around like who's it right for and who's it not right for, and so we can go into a little bit of detail on that. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. So this is just a quick refresh from some of the content that was covered in the first webinar. But essentially the biggest benefit that online appointments is really getting at is this challenge that small businesses and specifically service-based businesses face in managing their calendars and freeing up time to actually do the important work of running the business, because managing the calendar can be such a slog. And so when you're selling a service, your time is literally money. And so, what Ola is really hitting at is trying to streamline and automate a lot of that, kind of manual work, get that into the background so that a business owner is able to free up their time to really focus on delivering the service itself, serving their customers, running the business, drumming up new customers. And so not only is this, an experience that is helpful for both the small business and their customers, but then it gives them, because of the clean integration within Website Builder, really powerful ways to leverage marketing tools, the ability to take online payments directly from the site, all of these things that are big efficiency drivers for small businesses. And so just really quickly for kind of who it's for and who it's not for, as I mentioned, a large number of small businesses in the US essentially selling their time. And where we find online appointments really has the best impact is for those businesses that are a little more transactional in nature, meaning they're really scheduling a higher volume of appointments or classes. They tend to be, kind of quicker services, they're 1 hour, 2 hour type appointments, not big, long, full day events. And so think about industries like barbers and beauty salons where there's a high volume of customers coming through in any given day. Fitness instructors, another good example. And then we see a lot of customers getting value out of it for home services. Things like gardeners and landscapers, plumbers to some extent. Again, things where it can be tricky when you're trying to maximize the time that you are spending with customers to get bogged down in actually running your day-to-day and kind of getting bogged down in managing your calendar. Where we see online appointments not necessarily the right fit is for those more complex, like field management type features. And so, things like home repair and construction, general contractors, where typically you've got a relatively large workforce out in the field that you're trying to coordinate, or you are on site doing estimates and invoicing right there with the customer. Those are bigger jobs that this is not necessarily going to solve today. And so again, we're focusing on some of those more transactional service industries like your barbers and your fitness instructors. And I will pause there. It looks like we've got a couple questions coming through now.
Yeah, I can jump in and I can answer some of the ones around the product. So one of the questions that we had was, can you export or download or import calendars? I wanted to touch on two things. So on the calendar front, we have different capabilities. One is if you're a service provider and you want to keep track of all your appointments in one place and you're using your preferred calendar like Google or Outlook or Exchange, you can actually sync the appointments that are in online appointments to that preferred calendar. And if you have things that are in that preferred calendar that are blocking, like let's say you have a doctor's appointment, that will actually block the time so that anyone that's trying to book something on your online appointment site won't book it during that service provider's block time. So it's really helpful for service providers because that way they have one place where all of their appointments and their services can get tracked, and they don't have to worry about going to many different calendars and trying to make sure that their schedule is, all organized. So in terms of downloading or exporting to a file, I think what that means, or the question might be around, if you, for example, you're a customer, you're looking to book an appointment on the site, and you booked it and you want a reminder. Typically, what happens is you'll see an add to a calendar. That customer will see some indicator that says, I want to store this so I don't forget. I want to add this to my calendar. We don't have that yet, but we are looking to enable this in the next couple months. So that way the service provider won't have to deal with no-shows, for example. There's just another way that customers will keep that reminder in their calendar. The other thing I wanted to point out is, if there's a way, there's another question about being able to assign roles or permissions for specific employees. Yes, we do have that capability. So if you, let's say you have, you're the owner of a business, you can actually assign specific services, whether they're one-on-one appointments or they're classes or like a one-off workshop. You can actually assign that to a staff member, and then when a customer on the site is looking to book that specific service, they'll book with that staff member. So that gives the business owner, the service provider business owner, a lot of flexibility as well, because then they can manage their staff and the services that those staff members have and make sure that they have the right people attending the right services that they offer. And in addition, you can also, that business owner can also see all of their staff's calendars. So I'm going to try to pull up so I can demo this, what I'm talking about. Let me just go into, okay, got the screen share going on. Give me 1 second while I pull this up. So this is the online appointments product. Here we go. So here, this is a service provider that's using the online appointments product and is looking to manage their calendar. Once they go in to the appointments tool, they can actually click on, if there's different staff members, they can actually click on a staff and they can see that specific, all their staff's calendars. So if you have up to 10, you would be able to click on one of those staff members, and then you'd be able to see throughout the month, throughout the week, for example, or throughout the month, what their calendar looks like. Let's see.
Looks like there's clarification on the previous question about exporting or downloading a file. Narrowed in on the use case where if the customer decides not to have the site anymore, can you export the calendar locally? So,
so if the customer decides not to have the site anymore, then if they've synced their calendar to like their preferred calendar, like Google and Outlook, that information will be stored on that synced calendar, but it just, it will no longer live on their site.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Tanya. Just for the benefit of everyone, I'm just going to go ahead and read. Someone had a question in the chat. So they're asking about web services that used to be available, and they're seeing that it's not on the storefront. So Chelsea answered that it used to be available, but it's now only available to price out for renewals, but it's not available for new purchases. So that's the web services, just an FYI for everyone else on the call.
So I see there's some more questions. What's the limit to managing employees with a single calendar? So You can manage up to 10 employees, and for each employee, you can show this to you again. So you will be able to see a view within online appointments. You can see a view of all of your employees' appointments. So this view shows a calendar with a specific day view, and it's as you can see, it shows all staff. So all the appointments that your staff members have would show up, but then you could narrow down and select a specific staff member and just show what they have in their calendar. So, but the limit is 10, so you can have up to 10 staff calendars managed.
Okay, so there's a question. Will resellers be able to offer free trial, like GoDaddy currently does? So currently that's not available for the resellers. That's only available on the GoDaddy platform. So just wanted to answer that question so that benefit for everyone.
So, and to add on to that, we are looking into kind of future functionality to allow you to set prices that are at whatever you would like them to be. But more on that when we're closer on being able to deliver that for you. So it's something we want to do, but not currently available.
So there's a question about the calendar view being able to be embedded in an HTML page on the site. There is a way to add a calendar and to show different types of schedules. So there is that ability within the website builder tool. There's also a view that lets you see, in addition to the calendar of all the different upcoming services or appointments, there's also a way to just display the actual services themselves. So there's flexibility. You could show a calendar view, or you could also show a list of services that can be broken down by category. So the service provider could say, I want to have specific categories and services under those categories, so it's easier for the customer on the other end to find what they're looking to book. So yes, we have those capabilities. So another question about, are employees able to manage events, attendees, etc., without access to the primary account? So at this point, there is only one primary account holder, which is the service provider. And so the employee would have to use the primary account in order to, if they need to do anything like updating or changing that specific event, for example. But what we have the ability to do is that employee, once they sync their calendars with their preferred calendar, that employee would be able to see the specific event on their calendar, like on Google, with all the information that they need. So let's say that there's an employee that's in charge of a class, and the class is on a particular Monday morning. That employee could just sync their calendar with online appointments, and from that sync calendar, let's say they use Google, from Google, they would get an enormous list of, this is when this is the class that's happening, this is how many people, this is some additional information about all of those people that are attending. So the employee, what we've seen is the employee pretty much has all the information that they need by syncing their calendar, and unless they want to do something that's a bit more involved, like changing or rescheduling, that usually means like talking to the business owner about it, then they would have to use the primary account. So we have another question about a custom price for a service. The required deposit when booking online does not work. So the way that you can actually accept payments on online appointments is you can either, we see the most popular in 80% of the cases that we've seen, most of the payment happens in person. And the reason why the in-person payment rate is so high, it's no surprise because these service providers meet with the customer and then the preferred form of payment is done in person. For those that want to, for the other 20% that we've seen, we allow a way for the service provider to accept payments online. So you can actually receive a full, you can choose whether you want that customer to pay up front or whether you want to or whether there's a specific deposit that must be made, and then the rest of the service amount is paid in person. So for custom pricing for a service, I would say that the requiring deposit probably isn't the right use case for this. What we've seen is schedule a free call, and then from there, once the call is scheduled, if it's a custom quote, then the service provider can provide a custom quote based on input that they have from the customer, but they use online appointments as a scheduling tool to figure out when is the right time to do that call. And then from there, the service provider can then invoice the customer with the actual custom quote. So it's actually useful for custom pricing, at least in scheduling and figuring out what it is that the customer is looking for, and from there providing that custom price.
So we have a couple of questions in the Q&A. First one is, since there's no free trial, will the resellers get a free copy of OLA to test? Chelsea, are you there?
Yes, I am. So is this, because I know we've had conversations about this, that resellers have the free website builder as part of their free product package in their account with GoDaddy. So this is showing currently for them looking at website builder, isn't it?
It's available for Biz Plus.
Business Plus. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because I believe the free product package that they currently get is actually the just the business, so the middle tier, not the top tier. So this isn't one that would go in that you'll be able to test out automatically. May need to do a purchase, test it out, and do a refund. Is it to check out the full capabilities?
Okay. Another question about can OLA be added to the product description so it's more clear to customers which package to purchase?
Yes, that is something my team is working on.
Next question, can you show the back end for the calendar and how the admin sets it all up? Sure. So I'm going to, let me show you guys my screen again. All right, so let's go. This is the calendar with appointments, but what I want to show you is what happens behind the scenes for the admin to set up the services, and then a customer can go ahead and book those. So this, just to give you a preview, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how the service provider sets up this part of the website. So this is online appointments. And as you can see, there are different services. There's one-on-one personal training. There's categories. So if I click on personal training, it'll give me the, let me show you guys actually the site itself so you can get a better experience. So click on personal training, it'll show you personal training. If you click on workshops, it'll show you workshops. I think I still need to add those. But if you click on classes, it'll also show you classes. So this is the end output of what a service provider can build quickly for a customer to book at any point, 24/7. And when the customer does decide to book, you can see that there's a calendar that displays available times for those classes. And then in booking, they would provide information as well as any additional input that the service provider would like to know. And they could also specify, in this case, the service provider specified they wanted to get paid via deposit. They've enabled PayPal or credit card, so that those are the configurations that are available for the service provider to set up. So this is the end output. So now let's go into the product and show you how the service provider admin sets this all up. So let's go back here. From here, you can see there's different styling elements that you can change and customize. I'm going to skip those, but just want you to be aware that there's different ways to modify this and to modify layouts. Once you click on Manage Appointment, it will then take you into the Appointments admin. And from here, I'm going to show you where does a service provider go to set up a service. Since I've already set this up, you're seeing the view where the service provider is running their business and seeing their calendar at first. The view that someone first sees, if they haven't set up, is actually a guided walkthrough, sort of like a wizard that takes them step by step into what they need to do to successfully set up. I don't have that immediately available, but just want you to know that there is a guided setup process that happens once the service provider decides to set up online appointments. And it includes step-by-step of what I'm going to show you. So the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to add a service. So in this case, I have different options that I can choose from. I can set up a one-on-one appointment where customers can book based on the service provider or the staff member's availability. There's also one-time events. So these are really useful for you have a weekend workshop that happens at a specific date and time, or a weekday workshop. It's not recurring, it just happens at a specific time. Or you have a repeating class. So this is think about a yoga class, a fitness class, something that happens on a recurring basis. So in this case, I'm gonna set up, let's go with a repeating class. I'm going to go ahead and let's call it a yoga class. I'm going to enter price. If you add an image, you will be able to add your own images. You can also browse stock images that are already included. So, so you can type in yoga, and I see all these yoga photos. So it's really handy. You don't have to think about what great pictures. We have that all handy and available. You would insert that picture. You could add additional information. Description could also include your business location. In the setup process, we actually ask you what that business location is, or you can make this a separate location, like yoga in the park. If I wanted to specify that, I could. And I can also specify what staff member is actually going to be doing this class. In this case, I'm going to leave myself as a staff member. In addition, I can say, what's the total capacity? How many people am I able to accept in this class? So I'm going to type in, let's say 30. And I will now provide a schedule for this class. So I'm going to say this class starts next Monday. And it's a series that keeps going until, let's say, end of November. And it always happens on Monday at noon. Perfect. Let's say Monday and Wednesday every week at noon. If I wanted to change the occurrence, make it every 2 weeks or monthly, I could do that. But for purposes of this demo, let's just keep it simple. Repeats every week, Monday and Wednesday at noon. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And here's some also pretty flexible scheduling tools as well. So I don't want to get, as a service provider, someone just showing up last minute. I like to make sure that customers will book a day in advance. And let's say that you have lots of appointments stacked back to back, and you want to give yourself some time between appointments because you need to drive. Let's say you're in repair, home repair, or in something that requires preparation or commute time. You can also give yourself some buffer time and say, yes, I want to buffer this and give myself an additional 10 minutes before someone books the next appointment. This is really handy for one-on-one appointments when people can book based on your availability and you just need to specify buffer time between when appointments can be booked. For this purposes, since we have a class, and it's a class that happens at a specific recurring schedule. I'm just going to leave the buffer time off. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and as you can see at the bottom here, my yoga class has appeared. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. It's going to look like the end output that I just demonstrated. Before I go there, I want to touch on a few more things so that you can see all the other configuration options that I showed in the initial end output checkout demo. So there's a way to also specify different categories. So you can add up to 5 different categories that let the customers on the other end have a better idea of where to find the classes or the services that they're looking for. In fact, one thing that I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to include this yoga class as a class. So under when you're configuring the service, you could select classes as a category. I'm going to go ahead and save that. You also have the ability to manage staff. So from here, you can add different staff members. You can add up to 10 different ones. It's pretty simple. Here you could, let's say, I'm going to add Emily Clark. And you can add a specialty about them. So when customers are looking to book and they want more information about the staff member, they will get some context. They could also, the staff members get notifications, so whenever someone books an appointment or a service with them, they'll get notified, and thus they'll be aware that they have customers on the line. In addition, what's important, especially for one-on-one appointments, is the ability to set availability. So by default, in the setup process, you could specify business hours. But let's say that your staff members have different availability. They can also go ahead and change that availability. Say, hey, they're not available on weekends. On Thursdays, they're only available. This person's only available until 3. And so whenever someone looks to book an appointment with a staff member, it'll make sure that it follows their specific availability. The last item that I want to touch on is payments. So here's where you can choose the different payment options. So in this case, the example that I showed you with the checkout, I require a deposit, and as a test, it's a $2 deposit. You can choose whatever deposit. Service provider has a lot of flexibility in choosing whatever deposit that they want. By coming in the next year is the ability to actually change what for each service. Let's say that you want to require a different form of payment or a deposit. You'll actually be able to do that. For now, these payment options are universal and they apply to all services, but we know that it's important to provide flexibility in payments for certain services, especially when some services, you may have a workshop that may cost more to host or provide or prepare for than a one-on-one appointment, for example. So we're trying to, our goal is make it flexible and change the payment options for each specific service. So you'll see that in the next year. And in terms of payment methods, so we have Square, which is actually been very, because Square, as you may or may not know, they have a way for people to accept credit card payments on the go. It's actually a pretty universal payment method with the type of service providers that we're seeing. So this actually will work very well. If they have a Square account, they're accepting Square, their services. They also are able to do that with online appointments. And we also allow them to connect with PayPal. So the setup is pretty simple. For PayPal, you just need your PayPal email address. For Square, you would just log into your Square account or sign up for a Square account, and that's it. So based on all of this, I'm going to now show you, I'm going to go back to the site, and you're going to be able to see, I'm going to publish it actually, make sure I have all these changes done. And from here, when I click on classes, so now you'll see there is a yoga class that can be booked based on the schedule that I provided. So starting on Mondays and Wednesdays at noon. And here's all of the information that that I had configured. You can see the checkout with PayPal and with credit card and deposit. So that's essentially how the service provider can set this up. And once a customer books that specific appointment, so once they go through this process and they check out, then the service provider would go in and, let's go into the appointments admin, they would see that appointment show up on their calendar. So here we have a appointment that was booked, and there's one of the things where I think this was one that I had I had done a schedule update, so there's some changes that are still this will be updated very shortly. But basically you'll be able to see that this, the appointments and for different staff members show up. You'll also, once you go into customers, you'll be able to see the service provider can search for or view a list of customers. When they click on that customer, they'd be able to get more information about them. They'd also be able to see previous appointments as well. If they click on that appointment, they just get a history of the appointment, the amount that was owed, and when the appointment took place.
And then just to hit one of the questions that I see in the Q&A, yes, when a small business's customer books an appointment or a class, they will get an email notification confirming that appointment, and then 24 hours in advance they'll get a reminder. And so we can pull up an example, but it's essentially a plain text email with the what, the when, and the where, and gives you the business owner's contact information if you need to call and adjust anything.
Yeah, pretty much this information is in the email.
I don't see any more questions in the Q&A or in the chat. So we will wrap here. And just to remind everyone, I will post the webinar on the YouTube as well as the Reseller Rodeo. And next month, we will go back to the recorded webinars. And again, we'll post on the community sites. And that's a wrap for today. So thank you so much, Eric and Tanya and Chelsea, for the product updates. And we will see everyone next time. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.